So to set up this foldable, all you want to do is you want to take it and fold the edges into this center line and then cut the middle lines so you create 4 tabs like this. Okay, so this is essentially a tricks foldable for determining what values are going to be positive and what values are going to be negative. And all of these are using the Xbox method. So if you see here, if A times C is positive and B is positive, that means that both these numbers that you have here are positive. So that means that you have to figure out the value of these two numbers to make both of these positive. So if you look on the inside, if A times C is positive and B is positive, then the two factors are both positive. So to show you an example, cross out the one that you are given and write down this example here. X squared plus 7x plus 10. So to show you, if I draw my X box, A times C, in this case 1 times 10 is 10, and my B value is 7. So I need to figure out what two numbers multiply to 10 but add to 7. Since both of these are positive, both my factors are going to be positive. In this case, it would be 5 and 2. So I can rewrite this equation from standard form into factored form as x plus 5 times x plus 2. And it doesn't matter the order that you put them in. You could write x plus 2 times x plus 5 and it will still be perfectly fine. Okay, so that's if A times C is positive and B is positive. So if A times C is positive but B is negative, you need to determine the signs of these two factors. So again, if A times C is positive and B is negative, then both of those two factors are negative. So for example, again, cross out the example you're given, write this one, x squared minus 14x plus 24. A times C goes here, so 1 times 24 is 24, and then my B value is a negative 14. Now because A times C is positive but B is negative, this tells me that both of these numbers are going to be negative. So what two numbers multiply to 24 but add to negative 14? This would be negative 12 and negative 2. Because negative 12 times negative 2 is positive 24, and negative 12 plus negative 2 is negative 14. So I can write this as x minus 12 times x minus 2. And if you're ever unsure, you can multiply these two or FOIL them to double check that you get the expression that you started with. Okay, so in this example, A times C is negative and B is positive. So if you ever have an example like this, again, A times C is negative but B is positive, then the factor with the higher absolute value is positive. So I'll show you what that means. 5x squared plus 3x minus 18, and I set up my x box. 1 times negative 18 is negative 18, and then my B value is 3. So what you can do is you can think of what two numbers multiply to negative 18 but also add to 3. So I know that I could do 6 and 3. But again, this tells me that the number with the higher absolute value is positive. So that means that my 6 would be positive and my 3 is negative. Let's double check. Is 6 times negative 3 negative 18? Yeah. Is 6 plus negative 3 positive 3? It is. So that one works. So this is x plus 6 times x minus 3. In this case, it does matter where you put your plus and your minus sign. Because again, this is positive 6 and this is negative 3. If this was negative 6 and positive 3, well, negative 6 plus positive 3 doesn't give you positive 3. So this one does matter. And for our last tab, if A times C is negative and B is negative, then the factor with the higher absolute value is negative. So over here, I have x squared minus 9x minus 22. So a times c is negative 22, and my b value is negative 9. So for this example, the higher number is negative. So that means that this would be negative 11 and positive 2. So I could write this as x minus 11 and x plus 2. Or you could write it as x plus 2 times x minus 11. Okay, and double check. Negative 11 times 2 is negative 22, and then negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9. So this is how you're going to determine whether your factors are positive or negative, or if you have one of each, this is how you determine which factor is positive and which factor is negative.